Here are the top 5 overused copywriting phrases and why you are probably using them. Welcome back to the Intrepid Emma YouTube channel. I am Intrepid Emma Gibbons. I am a content marketer and brand copy strategist for women entrepreneurs. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 overused copywriting phrases that you are probably using and you're seeing everywhere. So as a small business owner, chances are, whether you've gone online to look for a product or to hire your own coach or a virtual assistant, wherever you might be in the online space, especially around small business owners who are not coming from a place with a massive marketing budget in their own marketing department, right? Usually you'll have seen some pretty bad copy. It doesn't have to be this way, I promise. It is so much easier to write good copy than you think. So I'm going to explain first off why I think that this is such a problem. And I really think it's that most new entrepreneurs don't know what they don't know about copywriting. A lot of people assume that writing for the web is just a matter of I put what I need to on every given page. So an about page, oh, it must be about me or about my business. A sales page, oh, it's about my offer. But there's so much more to it than that. For example, an about page is actually not about you. It's about your ideal client. And then they see themselves through you and your story. But we can deal with that for another time. A sales page is so much more than listing the features of your offer. No one buys something because you offer 6 coaching sessions. They buy the benefits. What happens as a result of those coaching sessions? Do they feel more confident in their body? Do they know that they can head out on any given day and score a new client when they're at the latest networking event? You know, it's those benefits to their overall life, to their business, to their emotional state, all of these things that are so far beyond the number of coaching sessions they get or the specs of a product. Those aren't what sell, right? So a sales page is so much more than that. There's so much we can cover. I would recommend that you go to my #1 copywriting formula video on AIDA, a great structure for writing a really solid sales page or any sort of online content as a way to get started. But essentially, I just want to point out that we think it's just about putting the right type of information on a page. But copy is all about the way we give them that information. So let's get into it. First off, identify whether you might be facing this issue. So I'm gonna give you a few quotes that I often hear from people, and if you resonate with even one of them, I think this video is for you. So #1, I didn't even know copywriters existed before I started my business. #2, I'm already pretty good at writing. I've written essays and emails, short stories, blog posts, take your pick, for years. I can just write the sales page myself. #3, I can just pay someone cheap on Fiverr. It's all the same anyway, they just need to put what I tell them into writing. That one is problematic. #4, I took a quick course / watched some videos on copywriting and learned all the essentials I'll ever need. You can learn a lot from videos on copywriting. That's why I make them. But learning all the essentials you'll ever need without having someone look at your copywriting one-to-one, giving you feedback on it, is a challenge. It can definitely improve, but you probably want to have a professional support you in actually learning and implementing those skills. Or on the other hand, you might be outsourcing. These are problems. They're mindset problems that they lead to why people are getting to your sales page and they're not clicking buy, right? It could be something to do with the offer itself not being popular, but if you know that people love the offer, if you're able to sell it in a one-on-one conversation, for example, and it just seems to be that the sales page is not working, the sales page is not working, the copy is not working, and we got to troubleshoot what's going on there. So one of the ways we can do that is by doing a check. Are you using any of these 5 most overused copywriting phrases? Because it's a real turnoff for people. #1, the phrase, number of people can't be wrong. If you hear people saying, well, 1,000,000 people can't be wrong, 1,000 people can't be wrong, they're trying to basically use peer pressure. And there can be a place for that, but that's not really a compelling reason to buy something. In fact, that can really turn some people off in the sense that I don't want to buy something just because everybody else is, just because it's what the crowd is doing. I want to buy something because it's right for me. Right? It can be a turnoff. So be aware of that phrase. It's often used as a crutch. There's better ways to build up that credibility. #2, qualifiers. This happens a lot with the women entrepreneurs I work with, particularly because as women, we're often taught to be very soft and gentle in asking for what we want. And that means that we lean on, you can even pay attention to this in the emails we write, just checking in, just, it really softens it. And sometimes it's useful as a tool, but it doesn't belong on your website. You are an expert at what you do, or the service that you offer, or the product you've created. You should stand firm in that, because if you're not super confident about it, they're not going to feel confident about it at all. And qualifiers can really weaken your confidence, or at least your perceived confidence. So leave out the qualifiers. Number 3, the "but everyone's my potential client" taglines. So for example, I have some here. For all your needs, for all your writing needs, for all your construction needs, for all your software needs. Really? For all of it? Really? You're trying to appeal to a broad number of people instead of the right people, the people who actually want what it is that you're an expert at, that you're a specialist at, that your product is designed for. And because it's so broad, you're not honing in on the way that you can help this specific person. And that really weakens the sales copy, right? When you're just trying to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody, really. And the second example would be whether you're a or a. So, for example, in my business, I primarily work with women entrepreneurs, especially as a writing coach. I generally work with women entrepreneurs. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to say, whether you're a woman entrepreneur or a woman professional, or think about how different those audiences are. They're drastically different. It's again the same problem, trying to appeal to everybody and therefore speaking to nobody, because they don't know if they're the right person. They might feel a little awkward even reaching out to you, because they might think, oh, maybe she doesn't help people like me. Maybe she helps this other profile that she just mentioned. I'm not sure. And when they're not sure, they're not going to take a risk on it. Number 4, cliches. Sometimes cliches are useful, but there are some that are so overused, they mean nothing anymore, or they even outright annoy you. So use your own kind of gut to decide, okay, does this actually illustrate my point, or is it distracting? So I'm going to give you some examples of ones that I truly think are way overused and don't have a place in our writing. So, outside the box, because what does that mean anymore, right? When you say, our software is outside the box, isn't software always supposed to be innovative? Like, there are certain associations that are inherent to industries, and I think trying to say that we're even more outside the box than everybody else, there's other ways to illustrate that than just telling them. You would want to show them with evidence. So stop leaning on phrases like outside the box. Next, tomorrow's today. Right? So whenever you're trying to say we're so innovative that we're really like tomorrow's spaceship for today, it's overused. I'm sure you've heard it a gazillion times, and there's easier ways, again, to show that you're innovating something. Invest in yourself. Now, this is true. I think it's fantastic advice, but especially depending on the industry you're in this case, I'm really thinking of the coaching industry. People are trying to make the sale by saying, like, if you don't invest in yourself, do you really love yourself? It's almost guilt tripping. I think at least that's the way that it's often perceived now, to be told that you need to invest in yourself while you're looking at a sales page for my program. It can come off as very manipulative. And I would recommend sharing with them the benefit of investing in themselves instead of just telling them they need to invest in themselves. Investing in themselves, particularly with your program's benefits. Make that super clear instead of telling them this is your responsibility with the inherent otherwise. Do you really care about yourself? You don't want that in there. And finally, built from the ground up. Everything you can kind of portray is built from the ground up. It doesn't really mean anything. You want to show your origin story in that case, right? So we started from scratch. What does that mean? Okay, well, we started in our parents' basement constructing this robot. I don't know what it is, but you want to actually show them what that means to say that you built from the ground up instead of telling them, because it could be, this very rich person who had a new idea but had, an existing company that was able to create something new. It just doesn't mean quite the same thing. So you want to make sure you illustrate what you're actually meaning when you are leaning towards built from the ground up. Choose another way to show that instead. Show, don't tell. And the 5th overused copywriting phrase or word is I, like me, I. You have to put yourself in there, especially as a solopreneur, right? You are an inherent part of your business, especially if you are a coach or a therapist of any sort, right? As a done-for-you copywriter like me, you're going to be there, but you do not want to overuse the word I. So take a look at a recent text that you've written. So for example, a recent social media caption. Grab your Instagram on your phone and take a look. How many times do you start a sentence with the word I? Do you use the word I more than you use the word you? If you do, you're overusing it, right? So you want to make sure that your ideal client is front and center. They will see themselves in you, even on an about page, kind of like I was talking about at the very beginning of the video, right? If you start your about page by showing that you understand them, you can say, hey, and actually I've been there too. Let me share with you a bit of my journey. Because now they're seeing themselves through your eyes. So always at least start with your ideal client before you transition into a lot of sentences that start with I. Be very wary of the word I. Just take a double check anytime you write something, and if you can flip that same sentence to say you instead, that is way, way more powerful. I'll even give you a really simple example. Instead of saying, yesterday I went to the store and was surprised to see people cutting in line. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Instead, alter that sentence. You might relate to this. Yesterday I saw tons of people cutting in line at the grocery store. Like, you might relate to this. Even if it's not about them, just find a way to acknowledge your reader when they're entering a conversation with you through a caption, through a blog post, even through a video, right? Try and put you ahead of I. Now, we've gone over the top 5 overused copywriting phrases and why you use them, so here's a little bonus. I think once you are aware of these things and you've learned the rules of copy and content writing, that is the best time to then break these rules, right? If I'm telling you for now, don't use cliches. Don't use the phrase, whether you're a or a. At some point, once you've really owned copy, once you've really built the skill set, you'll realize, actually, you know what, in this sentence, that would fit perfectly. That's the best way I can describe it. And then you're being really intentional about using what are otherwise often overused phrases. So just bring intention into this, bring practice into this, and at some point you can start to break the rules. There's a favorite quote that I have by Picasso, which is, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child." And there's so many life lessons that you can take from that quote, but one that I think is relevant here is the value in learning the technique, the theory behind any sort of art form first. So learning to paint according to theory and how we know we can recognize globally someone is skilled. You know, the style of Raphael. And then by the time Picasso was an old man, he was painting in a way that was very much like a child because he had learned all the rules. So it was so much more intentional and so much more valuable and impactful when he could then break them. You know, it was unexpected. It achieved something totally different than me picking up a piece of paper and drawing a stick figure. There's a different level of skill that is conveyed when you actually learn the rules and then break them. Same thing with copywriting. It's also a bit of a science and a bit of an art, right? So get really good at the skills behind copywriting, and then you can intentionally play with them, intentionally break the conventions of copywriting in order to achieve a different result and a desired emotional reaction in your audience. So something to think about, although that might be a little bit down the line, but always know that you have this ability to get better at a technique and then change your mind later on. So follow my advice as a little experiment when it comes to avoiding these 5 overused copywriting phrases. And then if you want to reintroduce them later on, you'll be doing so with intention and forethought. So to learn what you should be doing in copywriting, I would love for you to come to a webinar totally free that I'm hosting on April 8th, 2021. You'll have 2 times to choose between, and we're going to go over the essentials of what is the difference between copy and content. What is the #1 copywriting formula that you can use in everything, whether it's emails, social posts, blog posts, sales pages, etc. in all of your writing. We're going to talk about the frequency of certain types of posts. This can be useful for videos, it can be useful for blogging. we're going to cover all the content and copy basics in one webinar. It's going to be jam-packed and I'm really, really excited for it. So the link to sign up and attend that webinar is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and the little notification bell to make sure you never miss another video. I usually make content on copywriting and content marketing, although sometimes it's a little bit more broad entrepreneurship and mental health. I would love to see you again next time. Thank you for joining me today. Take care.